anyone else have a request and or petition to make to this board?
Good evening, I'm Don Denard. I live at 714 South Candler Street, and I was here on January 6th to comment on my letter that I had sent to Chief Booker, in which I asked for an internal affairs investigation on my claim that I was racially profiled while walking on my street on December 15. I have now received the report back from Chief Booker, and I have tonight my formal response, and I have a copy. So I'd like to give to each of them, and I'll present this. So I'll present this now. It's dated February 18, Decatur City Commissioners, 509 North McDonough Street, Decatur, Georgia. Dear Commissioner Basquette, Cunningham, Borkin, Garrett, and Drake, please accept this letter as my formal response to the report dated January 30th, 2014 that was sent to me by Police Chief J.M. Booker covering the investigation of my complaint that I was racially profiled by staff of the Decatur Police Department. Chief Booker states in his letter that, quote, given the totality of the circumstances, Investigator Hall, this is the officer that I claim racially profiled me, that Investigator Hall had a reasonable basis to issue a suspicious person lookout. Officer Brown, this is the officer who stopped his patrol car in the middle of the street, rolled his window down and asked me, sir, where are you going? That Officer Brown had reason to stop and contact you. In hindsight, your actions were entirely innocent, but neither Investigator Hall nor Officer Brown had that knowledge. I do not believe, nor have I seen any evidence to suggest that your race was the basis for this stop. Based on the information in the investigation, the officers acted in accordance with City of Decatur Police Department policies, standard investigative procedures, state and federal laws, end of quote. Simply put, the findings by Chief Booker that the officers did nothing wrong is totally unsatisfactory and unacceptable to me, and is inconsistent with the pertinent facts of the case. Number one, Captain Richards states in his report that Investigator Hall had an articulable, reasonable suspicion that I had burglarized my house. Though articulable, her reasoning was totally wrong and unreasonable. Investigator Hall assumed I was guilty of a crime. Number two, Investigator Hall states in her report that her actions were a result of her knowledge, training, and experience, and that she would take the same course of action given the same observations and circumstances. Her reasoning is questionable at best if, knowing that she was wrong, she insists that she would take the same course of action again. Her training failed her in this case. Number three, Deputy Chief Lee states in his report that my behavior, namely Investigator Hall seeing me walking from the rear or side area of the residence where no vehicles were visible, first drew her attention. He goes on to state that I was looking all around, and that when she saw me bypass the mailbox and proceed to walk away from the residence, she decided to investigate further. I have 4 responses to that. This first statement reflects Investigator Hall's failure to observe that residents in our section of South Candler do not park their cars in the driveway. The houses in my neighborhood have garages in the rear of the house due to the busy and often dangerous thoroughfare that is South Candler. Secondly, it is wise to look all around when preparing to cross the street on South Candler at Kirk. Third, since when does bypassing the mailbox constitute a suspicious act? And finally, her explanation that, quote, it appeared that no one was at home, end of quote, means that I fit the profile of a criminal, and that in Investigator Hall's mind, there was no way that I could have been the homeowner. She called in 3 squad cars to stop me on South Candler and stop traffic. The training of Decatur officers is lacking based on my experience, and their knowledge of the community is inadequate. Chief Booker's finding means I was a victim of the presumption of guilt. Investigator Hall's statement that she would do the same thing again, even with what she knows of the errors of her assumptions, is the most troubling and dangerous for our community. Her unwillingness to change her behavior and the chief's acceptance of her position as valid is why there absolutely should be further action to address this issue. Accordingly, I am serving notice that I will come back to you with a formal request for a more appropriate response to my complaint that there is a problem. This request for further action on your part will be supported by other victims of racial profiling in Decatur. Sincerely, Don Denard. I could have said more, but I wanted to keep this to 1 page. I just want to leave you with a couple of comments. Since this happened to me, there's just been a flood, literally a flood, of anecdotal evidence from people who've been victimized as I was. And it occurs to me, Chief Booker said in his letter that they do training and that the officers are trained to behave professionally, courteously, and with empathy for the people that they encounter. Well, I didn't have that experience. I understand that the police have a tough job. I know that there are many issues that they have to deal with. But I'm reminded of some advice that I gave to a Decatur high school graduating class when I was the commencement speaker in trying to give them some words of wisdom, knowing that they would be going out into the world. One thing I said is, you want to go out there with an open mind, but don't let your brain spill out. I also use the example of saying things are not always as they seem. And I think the specific example I gave to those students would be appropriate for the Decatur officers, at least those who racially profiled me. Things are not always as they seem. And I told them about the guy who walks up to the MARTA stop and he sees a fellow reading the newspaper and there's a little dog sitting next to him. And he asks the guy, "Does your dog bite?" And the guy says, "No, my dog doesn't bite." Well, he reaches down to pet the dog, and of course the dog bit him. So he pulls his hand back and says, "What's wrong with you? I thought you said your dog didn't bite." The guy looked down and said, "That's not my dog." So things are not always as they seem. When you see someone coming out of a driveway in the Agnes Scott Historical District, and he is dressed in all black, and he is black, you might want to think again, not the presumption of guilt, but maybe the presumption of community.
Anyone else wish to address this board? This is the last opportunity for public comment.
I just wanted to say that my name is Sarah Nathaniel and I'm a City of Decatur.
I'm sorry.
Sarah Nathaniel.
Nathaniel.
I'm a City of Decatur resident and I am in full support of Don Denard.
And you are RA or an RAH?
RAH.
And your address is?
710 Pine Tree Drive, Decatur, Georgia.
My name is Nib Troop. I'm one of the pastors at Oakhurst Presbyterian Church in Decatur. It's 118 2nd Avenue. I also live a few houses down from Don at 818 South Candler. I do not want to believe that what Mr. Denard is saying is true. but my experience with many of our African American males at our church tells me that it is. And so I urge you to take this seriously. Whether you believe this was warranted or not, there is a strong current, and I think you can see by the folk who are here tonight, of people who believe that the Decatur police profile black men. And that's something you should take seriously. My spouse, Caroline Leach, just retired, and I'm sorry for that. She's not, but the person that we hired in her place is a young African American man. He's 34 years old, the same age as my son. The first day he came to the church, I told him to be really careful going through Decatur because he would be stopped by the police because he was a young black male. I hated to tell him that, but I felt like I had to give him a warning of what might happen. So I think you should be aware of what people believe to be the case, and I think Mr. Denard's comments are evidence that it is the case. So I hope you will take it seriously.
I can assure you it'll be taken seriously.
Hi, my name is Rachel Caney. Reside at 23 K-A-N-E-Y. K-A-N-E-Y. I'm a product of Decatur City Schools, Winona Park, Renfro Middle School, and then Decatur High. I wrote a paper my freshman year of college about how this city helped me truly understand what the word acceptance means. Diversity, acceptance of those who are different from me, and really embraced community. This incident with Mr. Denard, along with others that I know of, has truly made me concerned about where this city is headed in terms of what we mean in community, what we mean by diversity, and what we mean of accepting others. I support Mr. Denard. I hope that we work towards really keeping Decatur progressive and realizing what does it mean to say we are a community and we have flaws and this is happening, and how do we make our members feel welcome here.
Three times. My name is Tom Keating, 147 Mockingbird Lane. Don Denard and I are very close friends from years ago on the school board, and I had the opportunity to have his daughter one time write an article in the high school paper, and known his family, and I'm very sad that this happened to my friend, and I support the more serious look and more thorough look that we can take into issues of not only diversity but racial and idea diversity in the town. So I support Don Denard.
I'm Caroline Leach, 818 South Candler. I'm the retired one. I too want to affirm what Don has said to you, both at the last meeting and his request for a more in-depth, really hard look at the situation. As Nib said, we know many others, including some of the young people here, when our kids were in, our church members and others that we've heard of, even as close as last week. So this is not going to go away. As Rachel said, we need to really think about community, and one of the things we seriously need to deal with in this town is racism, because people are not moving to this town, those that we would consider diverse, for these very reasons, because the stories are out there. So please, please, please take time to really do a thorough job and not have the police police themselves. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ann Lynch. I live at 430 East Ponce, and I came down to Decatur to go to Emory in '96, and I came from Shaker Heights, Ohio, which is known for diversity also, and that's what, excuse me, what made me feel comfortable in Decatur, and with a lot of people that are sitting here today that had the same experience in high school. I'm trying to get my boyfriend, who is African American, to move down from Cleveland. He came to Decatur and he said, I'm not moving to Decatur. I didn't feel comfortable with the way people looked at me when I wasn't walking down the street with you. And so I support Don Denard and everyone else who's spoken today. Thank you.
And I'm sorry, could you spell your last name for me?
Lynch. Thank you.
I guessed right.
My name is Rex Caney, and I lived in the city of Decatur for about 15 years and have known Don Denard and his children all that time and know how much he loves this city and has given so much of service to this city. And he does not come before this commission lightly, of course. And I want you to hear what everybody else is saying, that his experience is not an isolated event. It happened to my son and a couple of his black friends when they were coming home from the movies several years ago. So these things are happening within our community, and we need to find better ways to address them rather than just saying, no, we don't do that, our police don't do that. It's happening.
I'm sorry, sir, could you spell your last name?
K-A-N-E-Y.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Grove. My address is 123 Mimosa Place. I too am a product of City Schools of Decatur, Winona Park, and Decatur High School. I have hundreds, probably thousands of fond memories growing up in the city of Decatur. Unfortunately, I do have a memory of being slightly rambunctious one year in the 11th grade for float building right here on Commerce. A friend and I, he's in this room, got pulled over for throwing an egg at our other friends in the car. The white friends we had were let go. I was then asked, well, what apartment do you live in? Is it Gateway or Swanton Heights? As I said, I live on Mimosa Place. The officer then turned, looked very surprised and said, well, you speak very clearly. Of course, at the time when I told my parents that, all they saw were cop cars in their driveway. My mother was embarrassed that her only daughter was being brought home by the cops. But years later, that has stuck by me, and I am in full support of Don Denard. Thank you.
I'm not going to close this off quickly now, so we want to make sure that everyone's had an opportunity to speak if they want to.
I'm Mo Miller. I live at 710 Pine Tree Drive. We are 40-year Decatur residents. We've paid for a lot of school and a lot of policing. We would like to see community policing in Decatur, where the police know who lives where. They can't know everybody. But we would like to see more intimate relationships with police officers in Decatur, and I'm here to support Don.